Hi, ladies and gentlemen. This is Joseph Mercado with Plenergy. We're out here in the Appalachian Mountains. We're in Southwest Virginia. Right behind me, we've got some beautiful white pine trees. Just want to go over a little educational segment today and talk about the importance of white pine and why it's important, how it's and beneficial to you. And the reason white pine, if we go back to last year around this time in March, when this pandemic started, with the COVID, a lot of biochemists, scientists that come together and start to put in different trees and herbs under the microscope and figured out that the pine tree contains what is called shikimic acid. Shikimic acid is what they used in Tamiflu back in the 80s and early 90s, for us when we were kids, to help remedy the flu. They also used star anise as well as pine needles and from the pine tree to create this Tamiflu product. So it turns out that the pine tree is antiviral. It's used for the flu, for common colds. The serum molecule that was detected in there, that was discovered by the scientists in the early 1900s, where there was a problem in South Africa with this sleep apnea disease where people were dying. And this guy ended up inventing this molecule that was discovered that he expanded on, through the molecules of the pine tree, which is called aterpeneol. He created a serum molecule out of these other molecules, and what it did was it prevented people from dying from the sleep apnea disease. So the pine tree became a really heavy medicinal tree, not just the needles, but the entire tree overall. And it's been used for thousands of years by Native Americans. They've used in the winter to survive as an edible tree, to help sustain themselves with large amounts of vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin K, vitamin A. And, again, they were using that because not only did it contain cerumen, but also contained what's called shikimic acid. You have shikimic acid and shikimate, which is the acidic side, and you have the alkaline side, where you get your balance inside the pine tree for your nutrients. Because the pine tree, one thing you want to know about the white pine is that it's very high in vitamin C. It's great. It's got contains resveratrol, so there's a lot of anti-aging properties, which is really good for the skin, good for the cells in your body. You want to reverse engineer the anti-aging process. Pine needles is a good way to go. To consume that as an herbal medicinal tea. You can drink it as a pine water. There's a lot of topical ointments you can make out of the tree using beeswax and little menthol tablets. So there's different areas where you can enhance your own personal health using the pine tree. So, and there's a lot of discrepancy or some, let's say, confusion where people feel like you can only use the needles fresh. Now, here's one thing about fresh versus dried herbs, trees. Well, let's say talk about the pine tree right now, is that the pine needles contain a lot of water. So what happens is, if let's say I've seen it like online where people take the pine needles and they'll put them in the refrigerator, or the bag will arrive in the mail and there'll be condensation. So once you have condensation, the mold process has already begun. And what you want to do is you want to avoid that, where you want to dry them out properly. Now, if you're in the middle of the woods and you're not obviously not going to dry it, you need the vitamin C. In the first 72 hours, it's the most potent, and that's where you're going to get your highest levels of vitamin C on the percentile. Which what your immune system needs in order to fight off viral infection. It's very important. But also, in addition to vitamin C, as you know, you need zinc picolinate, vitamin D3, raw D3. The best form of vitamin D, my neutral perspective, from experience, is the sun. The sun gives you the best vitamin D out of all sources. But going back to the vitamin nutrient of the pine tree, going back, the fresh first dried herbs, so it's okay to have the herbs dried because it'll last longer on the shelf life. So you're talking about something that might have a lifetime expectancy of a few days to a few weeks up until versus several months to several years. So I've had pine last me almost 5 years in a jar and kept it fresh as if I just cut it up fresh and dried it yesterday. So, there's positives and negatives. There's good to having fresh right off the tree. But if you're looking for longer shelf life and for something that you can have for you, your family, and your friends over time, the only difference is you may just have to take an extra cup at the end of the day, each time, each day, or each week, each month, in order to compensate for that difference of nutrient levels, which is not much, it's very little, versus the dried compared to the fresh. So I just wanted to bring that out real quick and also talk about, what it can do when you take the pine needles and make a hot tea bath out of it. So if you put it in the bathtub and you sit and you just soak for, let your body marinate for 30 to 45 minutes, what happens is all of those nutrients, those mineral trace compounds, all those vitamins, and the ceramin and the shikimic acid and the shikimate is going into your bloodstream through your pores, because now in a hot tub you're opening up your pores through the heat, and that's what that's doing is that's allowing the medicine to enter into your body. So you want to consume the tea as an internal remedy and then take a hot bath as an external remedy, but it's going to go inside you anyway, inside your bloodstream, which is going to help heal your blood properties, which helps around with the rest of the systems in your body, especially with your liver. Because pine trees are antiviral, they're anti-tumor, anti-cancer, they're antifungal. So there's a lot of anti-parasitic. So there's a lot of different medicinal benefits to the pine tree, when you're consuming the tea. And how do you know it's a pine tree? Usually you can tell because there's 5 vesicles on the branch. So 5 needles that are attached to the vesicle, and that's how you'll know. So just count the needles on there. When you have 5, it's more than likely a northeastern white pine tree. But I wanted to go over that because the importance, of the pine and what it can do to help people, stay healthy in these times that are worried about, let's say, COVID or the coronavirus or getting the flu, seasonal flu, influenza, whatever you want to name it. This tree is going to help you not only stay healthy, but also revive you if you're not feeling well. You could take the tea and use that, or you could make tinctures using alcohol out of the pine needles. What I like to do is I like to use the whole entire tree. I like to use the pine needles, the pine bark, the pine skin, the pine branch. Pine branch is very high in vitamin C. The pine bark is very high in ceramin also. Pine bark oil is a derivative from the pine tree, which contains ceramin also, and it's very, very healthy for you. So, these are important elemental factors of wanting to consume and have the pine tree, as a form of a tea in your herbal medicinal cabinet. Because I do, as speaking as an herbalist and a wildcrafter, nature really does have a lot of, the remedies and answers, to the people's ailments and problems and what they're feeling with their health. So you bring back your original form of physicality. It's good to connect and be in oneness with nature and, consume the herbal medicinal teas. But if you have any more further questions on pine trees or pine tea and how it can help benefit you, feel free to reach out. Again, my name is Joseph Mercado with Plenergy. You can also go to my research directory at masterminduniverse.net, or you can reach out to me personally directly at 646-770-6617. Feel free to text me first if you like. And you can also email me at Plenergy, PL, then energy, at protonmail.com. And I'll be happy to answer any questions, any comments. Feel free to come check us out on Facebook at Plenergy, or look me up at Joseph Mercado, and I'll be able to help you out as best as I can. Thank you so much. I hope everybody's having a blessed and beautiful day out in nature. It's gorgeous out here. I love it. And just take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks again. Love you, everybody. Bye-bye.